witches, Tiffany here. I'm finally back with another entry in the book review series. I know it's been a while, but we're getting back to these. Today we're going to cover one of my main sources of information regarding the runes. It's a book called Taking Up the Runes by Diana Paxson. So I'm just gonna jump right in and say it's very, very debatable whether this is a good book for beginners or not. I have seen it described as a good introductory book for the runes, but I don't think it is for everyone. It's almost designed like a textbook, so for those that already know that they really want to get into the runes very seriously, then sure, yes, that's great. But for those who just kind of want to dip their toes in and kind of see what it's all about and they're not sure if they're gonna really delve into the study or not, it may not be the best first choice. With the paperback being 432 pages, it is a very thorough book. It covers 2 runes per chapter, each one of those 2 getting its own section. There's also an extensive collection of rituals that are intended to help the reader find a connection with the runes. Keep in mind that this is a fairly scholarly book. I love a good educational book that's kind of chatty. In fact, some of the books I've already covered in the book review series, I've described that way. Oh, it's fun, it's very casual, it feels like they're teaching me something while we're just chatting about it in a coffee shop. This book is not that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and I absolutely still found Paxson's style very easy to digest. But I just mention it because I know it's a personal preference issue. Some people feel that they're better able to understand or able to fully get through an educational book that has a more conversational tone because it doesn't feel like they're in school when they're reading it. That's just a heads up for whatever your personal preference is. So let's start off with the prose of this book. Like I said, it's very thorough. Paxson uses various sources throughout the text, quoting and citing each one, and giving her own reflection on what each scholar had to say. I love that she includes activities and rituals in the book that are meant to help you kind of connect with the runes, and she even includes a lot of study group activities, which is particularly great if you're trying to learn them as a part of your coven. Paxson does include one thing that I have found is often overlooked in other books about the runes, which is the fact that the meanings of the runes are not dependent only on their original context. Their meanings are dependent upon both that original context coupled with what meaning we draw from them in our contemporary culture, world, and society, as well as us as individuals, very personally. You can read all you want about the runes, but you also have to look within yourself to find what the definitions mean to you. And in each rune section, she provides the applicable parts of the runes poems, both in their original languages and, of course, translated. And I really appreciate that because they are poems. It's an art, and that takes different meanings for different people. So it allows the reader to kind of pick it apart, see what she had to say. She quotes what other scholars had to say, but they can also examine this poetry and draw their own conclusions and interpretations. And because I like to be fair, here are the cons. Paxson doesn't do much to break down the modern context of the runes. She does acknowledge that it's personal, and she also acknowledges that we have to find where they fit into our contemporary society, but she really only touches upon it. She's more thorough with digging into the history of them, which I'm listing in the cons, but if you think about it, that also does have a little bit of an advantage to it because the book doesn't necessarily force any particular contemporary position on the reader. She doesn't try to assume that every person who's going to pick up a copy of the book is going to view money the same way. You know, money is viewed very differently, culture to culture, country to country, person to person. So it doesn't force anything onto the reader, but it would have been really nice if at the end of each rune section, she had provided questions related to the rune from that section that the reader could stop and think about and put into context of their current position in the world, in society, in life, and what certain things mean in our modern age. Because like I said, there are meditations and rituals that help one connect with them, but not so much to find meaning within them. Another con is that while the rituals in the second half of the book are very beautiful, they may not be to everyone's liking. First of all, not everybody who wishes to work with the runes practices ritualistic magic, or even necessarily wants to make their dive into the runes so complex or magically charged. They also seem to have a bit of a Wiccan leaning, which is fine, it just takes up such a huge portion of the book. In my opinion, I think those pages would have been better served delving deeper into Norse mythology to give a broader understanding of the runes as a whole. I understand it's not a book about Norse mythology, and in fact, Diana Paxson does have books about Norse mythology, but at the same time, I do feel like she could have gone a little bit deeper into the subject. Finally, while I feel that Paxson does a really good job breaking down each of the individual runes, she doesn't stop and really dig into the runes as a whole. She also doesn't really cover the meanings of the individual Atir, which is the groupings of the runes, which is something that I will go into on a later video because I know people were asking for more information on the runes. And I mean, it's kind of debatable whether or not that's, you know, really important to learn in a beginner book, but like I said, this isn't really a beginner's book. So I do think that a little bit more time should have been spent kind of going over that, at least briefly. But anyway, I will let you guys decide if you are interested. That's just sort of my general pro and con review of the book. I did enjoy it. I did get a lot out of it, but that's just my opinion. If you're interested in purchasing it for yourself, the link is down below in the description box. As always, if you liked the video, please hit that thumbs up, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. But that's all I've got for you today, so witches, I will see you all on Wednesday.